If you want to bring your fasting blood sugar down, the most important food choice you make is what you eat for breakfast. Choosing the wrong foods can set you up for a day of unstable blood sugar, elevated insulin, and high readings the following morning. But choose the right foods and you can bring your fasting blood sugar and A1C down pretty quickly. And here are 4 breakfasts that I recommend to my clients with insulin resistance and prediabetes. Starting off with number 4, a cheesy omelet. Eggs are one of the best breakfast options if you're trying to bring down your fasting blood sugar. They're low in carbohydrates and high in healthy fat and protein. And these macronutrients are ideal for if you're trying to bring your fasting blood sugar down because carbohydrates are the macronutrient that spikes your blood sugar the most. And this becomes even more obvious when we eat them on an empty stomach, as we do with breakfast. Fat and protein raise blood sugar very little, if at all. Now, I just want to say that blood sugar spikes in isolation, they're not a bad thing. Our bodies are equipped to deal with fluctuations in blood sugar. However, if we have high fasting blood sugar, this means our body is not metabolizing carbohydrates efficiently. And this is caused by frequent blood sugar spikes over a long period of time. When our blood sugar spikes, the hormone insulin is released, and insulin's main role is to take the excess sugar from our bloodstream to our cells. But if the spikes are frequent, the cells will already be filled to capacity, and then they're going to start to resist insulin and not take in the sugar, which eventually leads to blood sugar becoming chronically elevated over time. So to reverse this, we need to minimize spikes in blood sugar. This allows our cells to become more sensitive to insulin once again and take in the excess glucose as they should. And one of the best ways to do this is by eating a breakfast that's high in fat and protein and lower in carbohydrates. And this is why cheesy omelets are first on our list today. And they're great because they're also extremely versatile. There are so many variations and different veggies and cheeses you can include. My favorite is a classic mushroom, onion, and cheddar cheese. Maybe even top it with some avocado, which is high in potassium and also helps to support stable blood sugar. A low-carb, high-protein breakfast like this has been proven to keep you fuller for longer when compared to a breakfast that's high in carbohydrates and lower in protein, such as oatmeal, which makes sense because oatmeal, even if it's unsweetened and doesn't have any toppings on it, causes a spike in blood sugar when we eat it. And this is going to be followed by a crash. And this crash in blood sugar is when cravings and hunger hit. With an egg-based breakfast, there is no spike and no crash. You feel energized for longer. Number 3 is a protein-based smoothie. Now, whenever I say eggs are one of the best breakfast foods, I always get at least a few comments from people who aren't really a fan. I know a lot of people drink smoothies in the morning and they do this thinking they're making a healthy choice. However, depending on what you're putting in your smoothies, it might not be. Usually smoothies are predominantly fruit. Usually they contain a lot of tropical fruits such as bananas, pineapples, that sort of thing, which are high in sugar. Sometimes they have a protein powder added, and sometimes they have a little bit of fat from something like chia seeds. But for the most part, most smoothies people drink are very high in carbs, very high in sugar, and low in protein and fat. And as we've already discussed, this isn't ideal for bringing our fasting blood sugar down. But the good news here is there are ways to make your smoothie more blood sugar and insulin friendly. And the first way to do that is to make sure that your smoothie includes at least 30 grams of protein. The easiest way to add this protein to a smoothie is through non-sweetened Greek yogurt or a high-quality whey protein powder. If you're gonna add a protein powder, the less ingredients, the better. Avoid any with added sugar, added sweetener. If they do have any sugar or sweetener, make sure it's minimal. And I also want to stress that nut butters, peanut butters, that sort of thing, while they're sometimes recommended as a good protein source, they actually don't have much protein. 1 tablespoon of peanut butter has about 7 grams of protein. And again, we want to be aiming for about 30 grams of protein, if not more. And this is why I recommend adding a Greek yogurt or protein powder. A bit of peanut butter, yeah, it can be okay. The fat in it can help to slow down digestion of carbohydrates and also help to minimize the spike, but you really want to be focusing on getting in that protein. Now, before we get into the final 2 breakfast options, I quickly want to tell you about Good Idea, who partnered with me on today's video. Good Idea drinks are formulated to improve insulin sensitivity and lower the blood sugar response to a meal. By drinking 1/3 of a can before you eat and sipping on the rest throughout your meal, this can reduce blood sugar spikes by an average of 25%. which is huge. Now, of course, the meals we're talking about in today's video, they're already not going to cause a blood sugar spike, so drinking Good Idea before them might not be necessary. But if you know that you're going to be eating a meal that has a few more carbohydrates, something that includes rice or potatoes, for example, or if you're eating out and you're not too sure what's on the menu, that's when Good Idea can come in handy. To check them out, you can head to healthcoachkait.com/good idea. I'll put that link in the description box down below as well. And use code KAIT15 at checkout to save 15% off your order. Moving on to number 2, we have sausage or bacon and eggs. So we're circling back to eggs again, but here I want to highlight pairing them with another protein source. Because look, eggs do have a great macronutrient split, but unless you're having 4 to 5 of them, you're not going to be hitting that 30 grams of protein threshold that I just mentioned. And there's a reason why I recommend getting at least 30 grams of protein in not just at breakfast, but at every meal. I briefly touched on this, but protein actually helps to slow down the digestion of carbohydrates and keep blood sugar more stable. But the second reason is that protein has been proven to keep you fuller for longer. This means you won't have hunger or the urge to snack between meals. And when we don't hit our protein needs, it's very easy to overconsume carbohydrates and to overconsume fat. Basically, to overconsume energy. But once that protein need is met, hunger switches off. And the reason why I talk about protein so much is because most people, especially women, are under-consuming it. Like I said before, if you're only having 1 or 2 eggs at breakfast and this is your only protein source, you're not getting enough protein. And this is why I recommend pairing it with bacon or sausages. Now, when I say bacon and sausages, I recommend choosing high quality brands. So this means bacon without any added sugar or other ingredients, and this means sausages without any added fillers. I'll link to some brands that I like in the description box down below because I know it can be a little bit tricky to find high quality of these foods, but they are out there. And finally, number 1 for the best breakfasts to lower your fasting blood sugar, we have nothing. That's right, skipping breakfast altogether is one of the best things you can do to bring your fasting blood sugar down. What we're doing when we skip breakfast, or even when we just push it back an hour or 2, is we're extending our fasting window. We're extending the amount of time throughout the day that we're in a fasted state. When we're in this fasted state, this is when insulin is lowest, and this is when insulin sensitivity is improving. Now, I will stress that if you're doing intermittent fasting, you need to make sure that you're eating enough within your feeding window. Intermittent fasting isn't beneficial just because you end up eating less. It's about spending more time in a fasted state, but still eating what you need within your feeding window. If you can't skip breakfast altogether, that's okay. Like I said, even just pushing it back a little bit and then maybe a little bit more and slowly cutting it out over time, this can be beneficial. But if you do still feel like you need to have breakfast, then choose one of the 3 other options we spoke about in today's video. But anyways, guys, I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comment section what your breakfast typically looks like. Are you going to switch anything up after watching today's video? Let me know down below. Thanks, guys, and I will see you next time. Bye.